So we're back with another episode of AI Right, and we are delighted to be joined by Sanjay Rakshit, VP of AI and Analytics at Poppulo. Sanjay, welcome to the show. Nice to have you on. How are you?
Well, thank you, Chris. Great to meet you, Andy. Yeah, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm good. We were just chatting before we got started about Andy completing the High Rocks at the weekend. Andy, how's the body feeling?
Good, I'm recovered. I'm back to the gym tonight. First ever High Rocks, an hour 33, which was okay. 3 minutes beyond my target time, but I've not been able to practice lunges, wall balls, or burpees because of a knee injury. So I was actually okay. I was happy with that.
You're good.
So that's my excuse. Next race is end of June, McTough X. So that'll be fun.
You'll be jumping out your skin. Yes. And Sanjay, you've got a busy week. You're off to Michigan next week.
Yeah. There's a summit where I'm supposed to do a keynote, which I haven't written yet. So.
Good. I like it. You're a man after my own heart. That's exactly the way to roll. It's good.
Yeah. It reminds me of my exams, but that wasn't the way to roll for me because most of them I would fail. So preparation sometimes is key. Yes. But we're not here to reminisce about my past lack of education. We're here to talk to Sanjay and welcome to the show and find out about his career, which would be very interesting.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate, Chris, especially your patience, given that I wasn't the most communicative over the past few months. So appreciate that. Thank you.
It's all right, we don't take it personally, Sanjay.
He's used to dealing with me, Sanjay, so it's you're probably a step up from that. You're more communicative than me, I'm sure.
Cheers, Andy. So so been around for in the tech and product and business space since 1996. Took a few years out to go back to uni and learn a bit more about AI, and I came out thinking, oh my God, how little do I know, and there's so much to learn. Bad idea, shouldn't have gone. But no, I met some really, really clever people there and proper practitioners, very humbling. But started in tech, pretty much been around device drivers back in the day, before USB, then USB, and build businesses, been on the board of businesses taking it to payments. That was a big part of it. Fraud detection, big part of it. Build products, took it to APAC, extended businesses to APAC. And then started my own ventures, 3 of them. 2 of them are spectacular failures. One of them still going, thankfully, because it's got no website, nothing at all, is word of mouth. So that going. And then most recently joined Poppulo, where I was brought in to help build out the AI strategy and to make Poppulo an AI first company in the space of communication.
We'll not get into it right away, but yeah, I found it really interesting when I was chatting to you before we organised this about probably one of maybe your spectacular failures as you've described them. So, and it's brilliant to have somebody on who's went through those journeys, especially with yourself, where it seems to be AI, data science, machine learning has always been part of the product and the companies that you've been building. So yeah, we'll take a wee wander down memory lane. But you describe yourself as starting off in a period called AI winter. So yeah, were you always kind of drawn into the tech space? Were you statistical or mathematical, technical back in your early days?
Yeah, well, I did my degree in statistics, electronics, computer science, and physics. Primarily for one and only reason. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a doctor because I didn't want to study every year. You got this book. So I studied.
You don't want to study every year?
Yeah. And I should have been a doctor on hindsight, because now I have to study every day, and then not just to stay ahead, just to keep up. Even that is a struggle these days at the pace at which things move. So on hindsight, yeah, I should have been a doctor. But no, I really liked computer science, even from my school days. And entrepreneurship always drew me because it was I think, when you asked me about last time when we were speaking about how I got started, I'm quite excited with the unknown. So remember my dad once told me, he said, go to a place where you don't know the language, you don't know the landscape, you don't know the people, you don't know the culture. And that always excites me because there's something to learn. Yeah. And it's problem solving, isn't it? So when AI so I still remember how I was doing my undergrad at the time, and had little businesses always going, pirated music. Yeah, we had a rock band, and we always were doing something. And there was this ad on TV of fuzzy logic in a washing machine. And this was back in India at the time. And I thought, what's fuzzy logic? So there was this little book I picked up from one of those roadside vendors in India. He got all these books, which are hokey copies, right? Got that. And it was about how our brain thinks. Our brain is not linear. Like mind maps later, those products try to capture the way we think. We go in different directions and they all converge at the end. Yeah, some of them converge at the end. And AI was what? It was getting machines to think like humans, which means it was trying to model. Mathematics was used, or is still used, to model our human intelligence, and that fascinated me. So how do you model something which is non-linear? And that's how I got into AI, and I got it. And I went to study, and thankfully I didn't do my master's at the time, because it would have been a lot of money with only two students in the class. So I did my undergrad, which had some modules in AI, and then it was very rudimentary, and then went back to uni later on. More mainstream.
Would you say, Sanjay, you're a scientist and an engineer first, or an entrepreneur first, or are you equally both? What do you kind of vision yourself as?
I'd like to think both. Only reason, Alan, because to me, if what we build doesn't make money, it's a hobby. Hobby costs money. So I think you need both. You need to have the commercial acumen to understand how something can be positioned and sold, because a solution is not a solution if people don't want to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how can something be built to satisfy a need, but then positioned and marketed in a way that people are willing to pay for it? So I think both, I'd say.
Really interesting.
Moving kind of through your career, you obviously mentioned you've always been heavily involved in product, and you've got involved in a few of your own businesses. But what was PayWizard? Was that one of the first kind of product-led businesses where you had a leadership role and that kind of combined both?
Yeah, so before that I was with NCR, which was an ATM, but I wasn't in the... We had our little products in there, which was check processing module, etc. But it was PayWizard where I had the opportunity to do both. Alan, to your point, is to build solutions, understand the market, understand the need, and then build a solution and then extend the business with that solution. So PayWizard was UK based. It was MGT when we started, or when I started there. And it was set up by Jonathan Guthrie, who I believe is one of the pioneers of businesses in Scotland. And he set it up as a call center to start with. And then he realized, hang on a minute, the software that we are using here to manage customers, could be a product. And then he bought over that company, granted, bought them over, and they bought the software. And it became a software company, but it was more of a projects company. There were many, many versions. And then one day he decided that, hang on, we need to build some engineering practices here. Then I was brought in at the time. And then at the time, then when I saw what was going on, then I pitched to Jonathan. I said, Jonathan, this could be a product. Why have 12 versions of the same software? He went, that's right, let's do it. And then we were one of the pioneers of what we call our micropayments. Because at the time, it was stroke of luck that all the customers that we had, they were all monthly subscriptions-based customers. So we built them. So we were a billing engine. We were enabling what we call our conditional access. In Sky, when you paid for something, that's when you got to see something, right? So we did that whole package. And then we decided that, hang on, ITV and then Box Nation, the various channels coming up who were selling, like Inspector Morse, for instance. If you paid 49p, you got to see the following week's episode this week. So, but then that payment was prohibitively expensive to make through a card, because what was left after transaction fees and interchange fees or acquisition fees? So we decided that, okay, how can we still charge 49p but then make money? So we started using the wallets, we had some innovative way of using wallets. So that came about. So we had that product. We came in, we went up against PayPal, left with a bloodied nose, because when they decided, it was an interesting situation. But we knew we had something. And then we went to the market, we raised capital, and I was asked to lead the product and tech and the business expansion into APAC. So that I would say that it was in PayWizard that I learned business as well as how to pivot and how to run a business and product. That's how it all started. And that was actually the first place where I had my AI, commercial experience of AI, where we implemented a churn analysis.
When would this have been, Sanjay? Would this be 2010s or something? Or?
Yeah, 2010, that's right. Because I joined PayWizard MGT in 2008. PayWizard for product was e-wallet. It was released in 2010, and then we pivoted to become a product business around that time, and then we went for money.
Were you you mentioned churn analysis and stuff. Were you early pioneers of machine learning and data science, do you think, as well? Were you kind of quite early adopters? And what were the challenges around doing that? And then, interestingly, jumping ahead, how does that compare to the challenges of embracing the AI wave?
So, see, back in the day, AI was it was AI winter.
Okay.
But it was an extended winter. It was not because
it was a Scottish winter.
Scottish winter, yeah. Because AI wasn't really classed as a competitive edge, number one, because there wasn't enough awareness. Number two, we didn't have the resources to do it. We didn't have the data. The understanding of AI was quite focused amongst a few individuals in the world. So doing AI at the time was pretty much not for the faint-hearted. And what we found was that it was a labor of love. So people like me who went in, but then there were very talented people, far more talented than I am or I'll ever will be, who were practitioners. So we had practitioners, we had labor of love, and our was to learn, pretty much learn and see what can be done. So we had solid people, but there was a lot of humility there because there was so much we didn't know. We still don't. So it was that phase. So when we implemented logistic regression, I remember at the time, I realized, wait a minute, there's something here we could do. We didn't have enough data, so we had a very small cut of data. We appreciated what data was. And then we took it to a customer in Manila, I remember, Asian Vision, and we presented that to them, and they were like, wow, we can predict. Yes, you can. And then we can do something about it. Right, okay, let's buy. So we won a customer. So it was a value-based proposition at the time. We couldn't say we had AI, because who cared? It was what it could do. What I find today, when I go to your question, Alan, is today everybody's an expert.
Yep.
And that dilutes.
Yeah, if everyone's an expert, no one's an expert. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, because I wonder what you think about this, Sanjay. Just, I keep telling people we've been here before, but it's also different. So, like, when the machine learning wave happened, my thing was always ML ops. So, like, getting away from prototypes to products and services and solutions and actual operationalizing it in an engineering sense. It's interesting because we had all the hype. We had all the experimentation, the excitement. Like you said, there was a real question about, is this actually giving ROI? What do we need to do to industrialize it? And then we kind of, we went down the hype curve, and then the classic Gartner cycle, hype cycle, right? We went to plateau of productivity. I feel like we're doing the same with AI, but it's like supercharged. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about that? Is it the same journey we're on? Is it totally different? Because, like you're saying, there are differences in terms of how people are viewing it. But what do you think about that comparison?
Okay, I can talk about my approach to AI.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So to me, the hype is good. Why? Because I have seen both sides. I've seen the time when I would go away and pitch to my exec before I was in the exec team about logistic regression. Take that as an example. We had to do it. My team and I was really fortunate that we had a group in my team. I think it was 50 odd people, but 4 or 5 of them, they said, right, you know what, Sanj, we'll work together, work day and night, because I was in Singapore at the time, in APAC, trying to expand the business. And they worked. The 8 hour difference. So they were doing the day job, and then in the evening we would stay up and try and build that. And the credit goes to those 4 who took a chance in building the logistic regression. Given the position I was in the company, I was able to take it to the customers, but I was also selling at the same time. Yeah, so that's what it gave me, it was selling as well as building a business, as well as building products. So we went in there and it clicked. Had it not clicked, had we not signed that first customer based on that churn prediction module, and recommendation module, it would never see the light of the day. So it was a stroke of luck. But what I'm going to say there is that because there was no hype, we couldn't get a foot through the door. So I think hype is good, because people will listen to you today, but it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives you the acceptance, it gets you through the door. Oh, you're talking AI, right? Let's listen.
Yeah.
Let's talk. But then, in today's world, the value from AI, or value from anything for that matter, is instant. The expectation is instant. But it's an emerging technology. And we tend to class AI as a SaaS model, which has been around for 25 years now? We had the dot-com boom, and then it crashed, came back on. So we forget that SaaS took best part of 10 years to stabilize. Amazon did not make any money for 7 years on e-commerce. Amazon Cloud, AWS, it was doomed to fail from the very day. The banks went, no chance. We're not going to put our stuff up there in the cloud somewhere. We have no control over it.
Yeah.
these concepts, these are paradigm shifts. They take time to settle in. LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman nearly killed we all know this, he nearly killed the platform when Facebook came on, because look, professional networking, whoever thought of that online? It was all, but again, when it did take over, when it did take off, boy, it did take off. So it's that time. Today, because of the pace, we don't give our emerging techs enough time to breathe and settle in. So that's the other edge of hype.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. Resonates really, actually. Kris, you've maybe found this in your business as well, right? It's definitely, to your point, I say, like, it used to be push, now it's pull. It used to be, like you say, you're pushing on a closed door. Please let us talk about ML. I think it's important. And now you're like, everyone's pulling you in, saying, come on, do AI. But like you say, there's this. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it is a double-edged sword, because the hype has gone to such an extent that people do expect instant value. That's obviously difficult to manage. How are you thinking about? Sorry, I'm jumping off piece, Kris. I know you had a script we wanted to follow, but I'm super fascinated by this. So, how do you think about the people question? You know, like resourcing, because you have obviously, like you said before, in the ML, it was AI winter, but you were doing data science, machine learning. You said you didn't have the resources, you didn't have the data, you had a small core of people who are trying to do their best. Is it different now? Are you looking for different skills to capture the AI wave, the latest AI wave, or is it more just you need more of the same? How do you think about the resourcing and people question?
Very interesting. So what has happened in the past, say about 8 years, is that AI is looked upon as a fad. Remember when we had Y2K, everybody started spun up these classes to say, come, I'll teach you Y2K. What we often miss is that AI is a discipline in itself. It is not a part of a small part of something. You can't just throw a library at it, it's going to work. It is a discipline, it's a way of thinking. And it goes beyond tech. It's a philosophy. The deep understanding of AI are from those practitioners who understand the philosophy behind AI, what it can do, what it can't do. So for instance, in Paywizard, when I was able to convince the business to invest in AI products at a very logistic version, the team was brilliant. And what I quickly realized was that I didn't have enough knowledge. So I had to go back to uni. So I took a career break at Fortin, and I applied in Edinburgh Uni because they were the best. They are still the best, and I wouldn't go anywhere else. So I was so fortunate, Alan.
Andy, you may have something to say about that.
Oh, I mean,
come
on.
A Glasgow alum.
Glasgow's okay.
Oh, Glasgow's great.
No, but Edinburgh is absolutely leading with AI. I'll take that one.
Yeah. And that's all I wanted to go, because I wanted to learn from the best. And thankfully, fortunately, I was accepted. Yeah. And first thing that struck me after going back to uni after 20 years was how much I didn't know. And you go, right, okay, we got to learn. And then I went back to work. Martin Curry, I was heading up the AI and data there. And I was in one of the conferences, and I realized how little I knew. So I paused my career again, went back to uni, Edinburgh, and did my second master's in AI speech. Because I thought, no. It's credibility. It is learning the craft. It's learning the domain. And what it teaches us is that there's so much we don't know. And what I find is that, so when I look for people who are practitioners, not experts, because you can't be realistically an expert in an emerging technology, because it's moving so, especially, today it's moving so fast. Every night I go to bed thinking, oh my God, what am I going to learn tomorrow? And I look at it and go, oh my God, it's moved. So how can you be an expert in a field that's moving? So to answer your question, I look for people who treat this as a subject, as a domain, and are constantly learning. And they understand both the tech and the philosophical aspect of it, so we know how to apply it. Otherwise, all we're doing is having, it's like an analogy I was looking for, it just came to me, is that I can use power tools, but that doesn't make me an architect or a builder of a house. You wouldn't trust me.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. That's the difference. If I've got engineers who can use frameworks, who can use libraries in Python, that's like me using power tools in DIY very poorly or very well. But that won't qualify me to build a house.
You mentioned obviously.
Oh, sorry, Kris.
I was going to say, it was very interesting. You're back to uni twice, obviously, to improve obviously your education, and obviously around areas within applied machine learning and artificial intelligence that we're going to start using commercially. You had to increase your skill set, but we get to the point in your career, I think maybe after your second Masters, when you launch IntelliGems after Martin Curry, was that right?
Yeah.
And out of your three businesses, was that one of the spectacular failures? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, I wouldn't. So I don't know. I don't think Jeff would class that as a failure, but I'd say it's a failure for not commercial reasons. It is for us not to be able to, IntelliGems started after Martin Curry. I was in transport for a while, and then I was setting up the R&D and product function, and then left to start IntelliGems. So why I call it a failure? Because ironically, first thing, what does Masters did for me? It taught me what I don't know, but also helped me understand investors and investors to find me credible. That was the key thing, because I was very quick to say, I don't know, and you can go and find out. Give me a week, and I'll come back. In IntelliGems, I'd say that everywhere. The technologies that we invented there, the team that we had a very small team, super clever. We invented there, are used today. RAG, we were the first one.
Do you want to take us back a bit and give us an idea of what the business was, and an idea behind starting it, and what the products that you were setting up were?
So IntelliGems started as versational. So we were one of the first pioneers. We started note taking, what we see in Gong, Firefly, Teams. We were the first ones in the market to come up with a product called versational that did note taking, because we recognized, or Jeff, who was a co-founder, he recognized that there was a gap in the market where people working remotely had too many meetings online, and they had to collate them all. How do you do that? So note-taking was born, versational was born. We built that. It was AI. We used traditional models. It used technology, or we used techniques and algorithms which could search across voice, across videos, and we could take them down. So we did that. Then in November 2022, ChatGPT launched, and that Christmas wasn't the same for many people. It was gin and tonic in one hand, keyboard, another hand on the keyboard, and you're asking, right, wild stories, right? Tell me a story about me, my Harley, and my dog, that kind of thing. But then we recognized that once the novelty wore off, businesses would find generative AI really useful with RAG. Now, we didn't know to call it RAG, so we pivoted. We had versational, and then we started Odyssey. Odyssey was born, and we built this whole piece about RAG. We were the first ones to do multimodal RAG. We just didn't know it. It was a means to an end. We were the first ones in the world to do search across voice. First in the world to use dynamic graphs, knowledge graphs, for enrichment. We knew that mathematically it's not going to work the way knowledge graphs would be. Today, nobody writes about it that much. Those days, everybody did. It wouldn't work. We were the first ones to implement that. We were the first ones to do what today called MCP. We connected to different data sources to pull data in and make tool calls. So what we had the generative AI today, this whole RAG piece where you're augmenting information to an LLM. We were the first ones to do it commercially. We had a demo that you could go to, upload a few documents, and then see what, or even a recording, and it would take you there. Versational was the same. We pioneered.
And you were selling these as enterprise products in a SaaS. That was the plan.
Correct. And we started that. I think where I say that spectacular failure is because not for the business not taking off. That's different. Yeah. But these are the technologies we invented, and we could not at the time articulate it. So the buck stops with me and Jeff, that we weren't able to articulate the paradigm shift in business to the market at the time.
And how, so Sanjay, really interesting in that story, right, is, like you said, you were pushing at the edge of like what you thought was possible, inventing new stuff. The market wasn't quite catching up. How do you have to think differently now, because the big tech labs, the big sort of AI labs, are pushing out so much powerful models and capabilities? So you spoke earlier about, SaaS has been around for a long time, emerging technologies, but there's a whole new there's a potential big disruption to the SaaS market, right, coming, and the fact that people can, write lots of their own code using Claude Code and Devin and tools like that. There's also the fact that, like you're saying, why spend the time inventing stuff when an OpenAI or an Anthropic are going to come up with something that just blows us away in a few months? So do you think it's a different landscape now to operate in as a builder / inventor? Are you kind of thinking, actually I'll rely just more on the big AI labs, or are you still trying to push the envelope and build things yourself? If you see what I mean?
Yeah. So when in IntelliGems, we launched the first versational Teams app and Microsoft came back to us and said they had never seen anything like that in their marketplace ever. It took them 3 months to approve our app, but it should have taken 2 weeks because they couldn't figure out how we did it. Yeah. And we use their APIs. Well, why I use that example? We are in a space today that we need the big techs to do what they do for 2 reasons. One is they are very focused. If you look at what Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, they're trying to do, they are sticking to a space, and their business model is centered around that space. It's focused in that. Yeah. But that leaves lots of opportunities wide open for others. It is how we approach. That's why, when you ask that question about scientist and a businessman, that's where the entrepreneurship comes in. We've got to look for an opportunity which complements. Because only then either we get successful, become successful, or we get acquired.
Yeah.
That's the approach. I think just to extend that, I don't think we are in a space where tools are mature. We need to be able, because in emerging tech, we are what in 1900, early 1900s, is what aviation industry was. Imagine trying to launch air travel in an era when there was road travel. Imagine trying to go to somebody and say, I'm going to put you up in a tin box mid-air. When there was no problem, I could still travel. I could still go from here to London in 20 hours, a 20 mile an hour car. It was a family day, it was a family outing. Took my kids, we stopped. So why am I going to fly? Especially when there's no precedent.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Yeah. People have died trying to fly. So why am I going to fly? So if we had marketed aviation to the common people, as I call them, the mass, it would fail. That's why we had to go to business. For years, flying was the realm of businesses, of businessmen. It was the luxury to do. 25 years ago, till low-cost airlines came, Priceline.com. So it is that chosen few, I would say, who changed the course of history. It was a businessman who thought, you know what, if I could fly, if that tin box landed, I'm going to be a billionaire. It was a chance worth taking, but only a very few would see that. It's a value sell. So this is what I see with AI. We have road travel, which is SaaS.
Yep.
AI, agentic AI especially, is a different paradigm altogether. It's air travel. You've got to relinquish control. Example, when we go on an aircraft, we go against everything we live by. We relinquish complete control. When you're on an aircraft, can you choose the aircraft? No, you can't. Can you choose the pilot? You can't. Can you choose how high you're going to fly? No, you can't. You can't do anything at all. But yet, let's ask you to go into your car for autonomous driving, you won't go in. We won't go in. But we are willing to go up 33,000 feet and let someone else control it. It's that value. We don't think that, I'm going to take the train to London. It's going to take 4.5 hours. We're more than happy to take a flight. That's what agentic AI is. It's air travel in the tech space. It's that leap of faith.
I like it.
It's that imagination that's required.
There's huge, and like you said, there's huge opportunity there, right? Because if you were at the birth of the aviation revolution and you could find a niche, you're gonna capture like one of the biggest markets that's ever existed. So, So.
And all the other markets benefited. Cars got faster because of that. Because car industry is made up. If we don't keep up, so technology then moved into cars, into airflow technology came from.
Yeah, and everything that was built to make airplanes safer and manage pressure and fuel efficiency, all of that stuff, better materials. You're right, all of that just permeated the rest of the economy.
Yeah,
I like it.
Andy, come back to the SaaS perspective. You talk about obviously that industry could be shaken up massively through agentic AI. Would you not say that every kind of SaaS product though is trying to incorporate some type of agentic AI into it at the moment?
I think they obviously are, but there's some businesses that are going to have to ask serious questions of themselves. And I think it's to Sanjay's point about really identifying the value add, the value proposition, right? Because, and I'm not going to name names, some enterprise SaaS products basically exist not because they're the best app, but just because they were like the first one to get some big wins on the board with big companies, and they've just captured the market through sort of organically growing from that, right? So there's a lot of apps you look at and you go, under the hood, if you're an engineer, scientist, if you're someone who works in code, you're like, this is super easy to build. And now with AI, you can build it yourself. So it's like, they'll incorporate AI, but they have to really rethink what their actual value proposition is, because the value proposition can't just be, we are the app that connects your data. That problem was solved a long time ago, and now you can go and write something with AI. If you've never coded in your life, Kris, for example, you could spin up Claude Code or one of these AI software tools, right, and just say, go build me that app. So these SaaS companies, I'm not saying they will all be killed. I don't believe that, because that's a hypey thing, right? Where they say every single SaaS product will die. Satya Nadella was saying this, SaaS is dead and stuff. I don't believe in that. But I think there is disruption because there will be players in the market who the build versus buy question for large corporations has shifted. The overheads of the build question have went down because of AI. So there's just a question there about, how much is you having a Sparkle button where I can ask a chatbot something? Is that really a unique value proposition, or do they need to reinvent what they're doing? And there's a lot of SaaS products that are really safe because they do genuinely innovative things, and they're pioneers in specific spaces, especially like the data space, the compute space. I can see lots of players who are like, our USP is not the fact that we have a front end, but they kind of pull it together. So yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, no.
Don't know, Sanjay, if you have any thoughts on that. That was just kind of...
Yeah, it's a different paradigm. I keep going back to that. Data and the underlying, what underpins AI is data. SaaS, the biggest difference I find between AI and SaaS, other than the agentic stuff, if you park that for a minute. SaaS was not a data play. SaaS data was a precipitation, if you like, or it was an output of an application. So when a SaaS application was built, the whole architecture, the whole product thinking was, what services can we offer? What features can we offer? And the data was captured to enable delivering that features. When it comes to AI, it's the other way around. It's what use cases, what is the need? Because you can't ask. It's like, again, back to the air. If you're going to ask air travel, nobody's going to think about it. So it's what's the need? Need is for speed to get there quickly, right? Okay, we need air travel. So we need to understand the need, draw some use cases, and then first thing we do is figure out is the data of good quality and fidelity. Quality is good, but if it's not relevant, it's low fidelity. And after that, we build AI. We turn the whole thing on its head. SaaS is application down, AI is data up. That's the fundamental difference from our engineering architecture and product.
Going back, Sanjay, and Telegems, you talked about obviously building Versational, which was an AI note taker at the time, and then you moved to, I think, Odyssey, type engine, but obviously that wasn't a coined phrase or a capability at the time. What happened? Enterprise LLMs, major LLMs became more widely used, and the use cases became known for businesses wherein not they could be applied. How did that impact your products as a business at that point in time?
As a matter of fact, that's when Odyssey began to take off, because what we say when public LLMs, they are trained on corpus. Again, data is the key thing here, right? Which is obsolete because they were trained and then they were released. That's a 6-month life cycle, and it's commonly or publicly available data. When businesses want to make use, an enterprise wants to make use of LLMs, their current knowledge, the industry knowledge that the enterprises bring, have to be augmented to it, and they're all IP, most of it. They're not publicly available. So the ability to augment or attach the context, which is the IP, the relevant, specific, focused content, to a prompt, to an LLM, became a huge use. A prompt has 3 things. It's got the instruction, which is summarize, context, summarize this, and constraint, which is in 50 words. Otherwise, you get a summary which is longer than the actual text. So it became a context play. If you give it the best context, or better the context, better the response. But that's where the industry came out. That's why I keep talking about platform and not just I really like your sprinkly button, because it's very easy. There's so many companies who come back and say, I've got AI. How? I have a prompt and I pass it through. But where's the context coming from? Well, it's not AI. What a practitioner team would do is they would build a platform that can extract the right context. Because better the context, better the response. So that's the foundation. So you got the data. Without data, you can't have context. Once you get the data, you apply machine learning on it to extract the correlations and the patterns. Once you got that, then you say, right, okay, from here, what's relevant context? So if I'm asking about civil engineering and I give context of electronic engineering, that's not going to really work, is it? Yeah, it's both engineering, but completely different.
Yep.
So then that context. So practitioners would look at that and they say, LLM is just a means to an end. It's just a tool. Non-practitioners would treat LLMs as AI. Practitioners would say, it's just a tool, it's just a power tool. But what to do with the power tool, how to make the best use of it, exploit it, is where practitioners would then focus. So there are lots of AI algorithms, machine learning techniques that go in prior to calling an LLM, which then provide the best response for the next step. That's why agentic applications are taking off, because it sits outside. Real agentic application, the secret sauce lives outside the LLM, not within. That's where the machine learning, that's where the AI is applied. LLM is just a small, very small problem.
Yep. I think your focus on context engineering is exactly right. Like you say, it's not even just that. Yeah, LLM's a tool, exactly. But it's completely commoditized. So it's like, having that is not a differentiator at all. But like you say, the actual what context can you grab? How do you engineer it? How do you surface it? How do you dynamically fetch the relevant bits of context for a complex task while maintaining all the security principles and everything else that you need to do that safely? That is the main engineering challenge. So I totally agree with that. I think that's absolutely correct. Based on all this, Sanjay, just what are you most excited about? You said it's really hard to keep up, right? I'm going to ask you to not just keep up, but look ahead. What's the most exciting stuff coming down the line? What are you kind of positioning? What's the next big thing?
Interoperability of systems, of AI systems. What excites me about this whole space is that there's so much of lessons to learn from the SaaS world, because that's what took applications off our desktops. Remember, back in the day, we had these little icons on our desktop to start EXEs. What SaaS taught us was a browser can be really powerful. An application can run within a browser. You don't need it. And then you don't need the compute power on your laptop to run applications, to run somewhere else. Where I see in the next 18 months is lots of AI systems coming through. But then how do they work with each other? That's where the true power is going to be. There are two aspects to this. Those who know me well will tell you that I can only think in offense. Hence, I should never be a football team manager, because we'll still win, but it'll be 12 goals to 9.
Yeah,
I would pay to watch.
You'd win, but you'd concede a lot.
Yeah, so thankfully the team we have, brilliant. They also have they form the defense and they take care of that. But I think where it's going to win is applications and platforms. It's a platform game. It's not going to be, put that so well, it's not going to be a sparkly button. It'll be the platform that powers that button. Yeah, that's where the winning is going to be. So you have platforms, and then the platforms talking to each other. That's where the open protocols like MCP, A2A, or anything that comes up is going to work. Is how can those platforms, the AI platforms, talk to each other so that companies or vendors or startups or businesses building their products can stay in their lane, but yet take advantage of adjacent lanes to deliver a more holistic service through that interoperability.
Yeah. No, I'd probably agree with that. I think it's quite amazing to me that we're this far in this latest AI revolution, and that hasn't been the focus. I find that really fascinating. Everyone is, like you say, it's almost, I use this analogy all the time, the whole Henry Ford, don't build faster horses. And to your point, let's not build cars, let's build planes.
Yeah.
I still think a lot of platforms and tools, they're just focusing on their lane, like you say. They're just like, oh, how can I build all this AI stuff in here? Rather than thinking, if I go to a customer and actually say, I talk to your other 3 enterprise products for you, safely, securely, and scalably, therefore my agent, when it knows I can't find the data in this little ecosystem, I need to go and grab it somewhere else, it does that for you. I think you're right. I think that's humongous potential, and lots of fun and engineering and science challenges as well.
Sanjay, just before we finish up, you're obviously at Poppulo now as kind of VP of AI and Analytics. Do you want to tell us a bit about the business?
So I'm very fortunate to be in Poppulo, because I was brought in by Frank to help build the AI strategy for Poppulo, to make it to help it on the journey of being an AI first business.
What does the company do?
We build products for the employee communication, like the employee experience market and digital signage market. My role in Poppulo was help with the strategy, but also build up a team, an AI analytics team, which we have now. And what we've done is we built an AI and analytics platform, 2 separate platforms, with 2 platforms for this team, which today has put Poppulo on the top of the pile. Poppulo is a pioneer in our industry.
And you guys have went through different levels of funding. Is it kind of heading towards an IPO? Is that the position it's at the moment?
It's a private equity firm. So
Right.
So that's the way it's going to be. But all this was done in less than 12 months.
Right. Okay.
Wow, it's fast.
It's a team.
In terms of where you're at now as well, you still do some guest lecturing at the University of Edinburgh?
Yeah. Been doing this for about 7 years now, nearly. So we have this master's cohort where every year I mark as well. I mark the machine learning assignments. I tutor the project. because that's the way. I'm very fortunate to be given the opportunity to guest lecture, be a marker and a tutor, because that helps me work with some brilliant minds that are there. I learn so much from them, and it helps me keep up.
It's great. It's great to have that humility, isn't it? When you're there to obviously help nurture their kind of minds and them to learn so much from yourself. But obviously, you're saying that you're getting so much from that yourself, as well as just giving back to the community and to the university.
It's a privilege that they have offered, and I'm very thankful for it.
I think you're a brave man offering to Mark. That's because when I guest lecture, I never offer to Mark. So any of my collaborators listening who work at the universities, I'm not offering to Mark. I'm not as kind of altruistic as Sanjay. I think that's a very, very altruistic thing of you to do, Sanjay. Amazing.
Well, Sanjay, listen, I think that's about all we've got time for. But it was great to have you on. Really interesting journey